The second insight is called the longer now. The longer now is stating that you have to have a knowledge of your past in order to know where you're going, meaning we have to understand history to understand how we got to the point that we're at right now. The examples that he used was that the Western mind was dominated by the Catholic Church for like a millennium. Basically controlled mankind by getting man to live to die, to gain salvation into the heavens. So that's what kept people obedient, was that they were threatened with the idea that they're either going to go to hell or they're going to go to heaven. And they could only go to heaven if they do exactly as the Catholic Church says and follow whatever it is that they say. Don't have any thoughts of your own. Don't even question what we're telling you. The only way to gain salvation into heaven is by doing exactly as we say. And we'll tell you what the Bible says. We won't teach you how to read it. We'll just tell you what it says. Don't worry about reading, just listen to us. I guess the big shift in Western consciousness, according to the Celestine Prophecy, is when it's attributed by James Redfield to when Martin Luther, not Martin Luther King, but Martin Luther, stapled his complaints on the church door, and this caused, I guess, the Enlightenment, which led to the scientific revolution. That's the pivotal shifting point. It sounds like a great victory, and it was. However, the problem that came out of that, suddenly everyone in the West no longer knew what they were doing on earth. And this made them feel uneasy, because before, at least their minds were dominated and controlled by the Catholic Church. And then along comes Martin Luther to free their mind and say, hey, guess what? We all deserve the right to read. We all deserve the right to interpret the Bible how we see fit for our own individual purposes. The problem is that a lot of people were then left like, all right, well, what do we do now? What are we doing here? And while some might find that to be exhilarating and thrilling, others found it very distressing to have no meaning. Instead of discovering a higher spiritual purpose, because the Catholic Church still did dominate everybody, a compromise was created between the scientists and the church. And the compromise was that the scientists would focus exclusively on the physical realm, but that the church and religion would still own the spiritual realm. And when I say realm, I mean to be able to dictate the reality of it. So they were like, all right, scientists, we can't use Aristotle's physics anymore. We need some actual science to figure out how a lot of stuff works out there. So you guys can go figure that out, but stick to the things that you could see. Anything all of the unseen, let us still dictate that. It was a good compromise. It was a step in the right direction. So the scientists then gave all these people that no longer knew what to think anymore, because they're no longer living to die, they're no longer being damned to hell or granted into heaven, developed science, the strict discipline of science. They began to quantify everything and began to do what we understand today as science. This is why an understanding of the first insight is important to understand the second insight. Understanding that all events are synchronistic and everything leads to something else. By Martin Luther stapling on the door his complaints, and then the unintended consequence was, all right, we're free, but we don't know what to think. That creates science. Church is like, all right, well, we'll let you guys exist, but focus on the physical. And then you got people that are only focusing on the physical, which gave us the great science that we have. And then it leads us to now in the 21st century saying, okay, we've dominated and conquered the physical world. We now need to go to that next level. We need to take it to the spiritual. One of the important concepts that gets overlooked often when I hear people discuss Celestine Prophecy that goes in with this, the longer now, is what James Redfield called the preoccupation. And it's pretty much what I just described. We've been preoccupied, which means we haven't done much thinking about things as a collective human. We needed religion to create order. That's why that part of our synchronistic history was important. It was important for religion to restore order from the Dark Ages, or even before that, to create civilization. Then the science revolution was important because we needed to quantify things without wacky thoughts getting in the way. Now that we have science established and we have order established, we need to take it to the next level, to acknowledge greatly paranormal, Acknowledge that reality has become science fiction has become reality, both. The world is not as limited as the laws of nature have told us. Even that's not true, because down the line we'll find that the laws of nature do provide for all of the paranormal things to become normal. For instance, nanotechnology allows us to create anything, really. I mean, it's game over with nanotech. With fabricating machines, we can create anything. All of the technology exists right now. It's all been theoretically created on paper. If it's created on paper, it's just a matter of resources to be able to produce it. So everything has been invented, but it has not been implemented. And it has not been implemented due to a few things. One, people aren't ready for it. At least that's what they say, that mankind is not ready for this kind of technology. But I'm telling you, it does exist. It all exists. It's all suppressed. The lack of understanding of people to know how much they could be liberated. And by the way, the 9th insight, I'm skipping from 2 to 9 real quick, to understand the end agenda is to bring our birth vision to this dimension. And the way we do that is by eliminating money and eliminating work. We automate society with robots and or machines and have them create all the means of production and provide us all the means of survival, so that our entire lives are encompassed by going on the adventure of life, finding out what it means to exist, what it means spiritually for our existence. That's what I want to inform people, is that I know that the technology that you see in all these science fiction films to a certain extent exists currently. As soon as people start saying, hey, you mean I don't have to eat food? You mean I don't have to go to work for 40 hours a week? That energy is free? If we're going to have research programs at universities, we should dedicate it all to desalinizing the ocean water. The ocean water is so abundant. The ocean is a perpetual motion device because of the moon. Why we have to work and toil and waste our time and occupy through the preoccupation of having an occupation. I don't need an occupation. I don't. I mean, I need it to pay artificial bills that come to my house every single time the moon goes around the earth. I have to pay a bill. So do you. And why is that? Why? Just because the moon went around the earth, which causes a month to happen, we have to pay money. Why? Really? Why? So I think I could recap it at this point. The second insight, the longer now. Understanding of the history of the Western civilization, or wherever you live, understanding of your history will help you understand how it is we got to the point we're at right now. Knowledge of the preoccupation will help you understand why the majority of us don't actively think about things. We really should. And when we start to begin to think about things and consider things and not reject anything, one of the things I created of my own philosophy is the first tenet: all ways are the only way. There's never only one answer except that which is all answers. The longer now, preoccupation. Know your history to know how you got here. Know why things are the way they are. What is the Matrix, Neo? It is control. So that's it. That's the Celestine Prophecy, the second insight. Tune in next time when I discuss the third insight.